Ladies and gentlemen, there is a sacred presence within each of us, an eternal source of wisdom and strength that transcends the fleeting nature of worldly concerns. This presence is not something to be sought in the future, nor is it confined to religious doctrine. It is the living reality of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit does not empower through force or struggle, but through surrender to the eternal now, where all wisdom, strength, and love reside. And in that surrender we find true freedom. The power of presence is the key to true spiritual empowerment, and it is through the Holy Spirit that we come into direct contact with this reality. The mind, conditioned by past experiences and future anxieties, constantly pulls us away from the present moment. It distracts us with thoughts of what was and what might be, leading us to believe that our peace and fulfillment lies somewhere outside of ourselves. Yet the Holy Spirit is not found in the past or the future. It is here now. To be empowered by the Holy Spirit is to awaken to the depth of the present moment, where divine presence is not only felt but fully realized. Many people seek external sources of power, whether through personal achievements, social recognition, or material success. They believe that empowerment comes from acquiring more knowledge, more influence, more control. But true empowerment does not arise from accumulation. It arises from presence. The Holy Spirit does not speak in the noise of the mind, but in the stillness that exists beneath all thought. When we quiet the mind and enter this stillness, we open ourselves to the infinite wisdom that the Holy Spirit provides. This stillness is not passive. It is alive, vibrant, and deeply intelligent. It is the source of all creativity, clarity, and strength. When we are truly present, we are no longer reactive to the world around us. We do not respond from a place of fear, anxiety, or past conditioning, but from a place of deep knowing. The Holy Spirit empowers us, not by giving us something external, but by revealing to us what has always been within. In this state of presence, we begin to see life differently. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming lose their power over us. The need to control, to force outcomes, to manipulate circumstances, all of this dissolves. We realize that we are being guided, that there is an intelligence far greater than our own working through us. This is the essence of empowerment. It is not about asserting our own will, but about aligning with the divine will that is already unfolding. Consider how often people live in resistance to the present moment. They wish things were different, they hold on to grievances, or they worry about what will happen next. This resistance creates suffering, but the Holy Spirit does not dwell in resistance, it dwells in acceptance. To be present with what is, to fully embrace each moment as it comes, is to align with the Spirit. And in that alignment, we discover an incredible strength, one that does not depend on external circumstances. This does not mean that life becomes free of difficulties. Challenges will arise, but when we are present, we meet them from a place of stillness and clarity. We no longer react impulsively or get lost in fear. Instead, we respond with wisdom and grace. The Holy Spirit does not take us out of the world, but transforms the way we experience it. Through presence, we begin to recognize the sacredness of life itself. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. A simple moment of silence, a breath, a touch of the wind, these become doorways into the divine. The mind, which constantly seeks meaning in complex theories and external pursuits, begins to quiet, and we realize that everything we have been searching for has been here all along. When we live in the power of presence, we become vessels for the Holy Spirit's work. Our words carry deeper meaning, our actions become infused with love, and our very presence uplifts those around us. We do not need to convince others of spiritual truths because our very being radiates them. We embody peace, wisdom, and strength not because we have attained them, but because we have allowed them to emerge from within. The invitation of the Holy Spirit is always here. It is not something we have to earn or chase. It is a gift freely given, available in this moment. But to receive it, we must be willing to let go of distractions, to step beyond the noise of the mind, and to enter fully into the now. When we do, we find that empowerment was never something to be achieved. It was something to be remembered. The greatest barrier to true empowerment by the Holy Spirit is the false self, the ego. The ego is the voice in the mind that identifies with personal history, labels fears and desires. It is the part of us that believes we are separate from God, from others, and even from life itself. It constantly seeks to define itself by external conditions, status, achievements, possessions, relationships, yet no matter how much it attains, it remains unsatisfied. The ego lives in a perpetual state of craving, either chasing after something it desires or resisting something it fears. This endless cycle keeps us trapped in suffering, preventing us from experiencing the true power of the Holy Spirit. To be empowered by the Holy Spirit, we must transcend this egoic identity. This does not mean destroying the ego, nor does it mean denying its existence. Rather, it means recognizing it for what it is, a mental construct, a collection of conditioned thoughts and beliefs that have no ultimate reality. The ego thrives on attachment to the past and fear of the future, but the Holy Spirit operates in the eternal now. When we are fully present, the grip of the ego loosens, and we begin to experience life from a deeper, truer place. The ego resists this process because its survival depends on maintaining a sense of control. It fears surrender, believing that to let go is to become powerless. Yet, the paradox is that true power comes not from control but from surrender. Surrender to the Holy Spirit. Surrender to the flow of divine intelligence that moves through all things. This surrender is not passive. It is the highest form of trust. It is the recognition that there is a wisdom greater than our own personal thinking, a presence that knows the way even when we do not. When we transcend the ego, we no longer take things personally. We stop seeking validation from others, for we realize that our worth is not dependent on external approval. We are no longer easily offended, for we see that the opinions and actions of others are simply expressions of their own conditioned minds, not reflections of our true self. This freedom from reactivity is one of the greatest signs of spiritual empowerment. It means we are no longer ruled by unconscious patterns, but are instead guided by divine wisdom. Another profound transformation occurs when we let go of the ego's need to control outcomes. The mind often believes that happiness is found in achieving specific goals or arranging life according to its preferences. Yet, when we surrender to the Holy Spirit, we begin to trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. This does not mean we become passive or stop taking action, but our actions come from a place of inner peace rather than fear or desperation. We move through life with a sense of ease, knowing that we are supported by something far greater than ourselves. A person who has transcended the ego and is empowered by the Holy Spirit radiates a quiet strength. They do not need to prove themselves or assert dominance over others. Their presence alone is enough to inspire trust and peace. They listen deeply, speak with clarity, and act with wisdom. Their decisions are not driven by personal gain, but by a higher purpose. The process of transcending the ego is not always easy. The mind will resist, seeking to pull us back into old habits of worry, doubt, and self-judgment. But every moment is an opportunity to return to the present, to step beyond the illusion of the separate self, and to reconnect with the infinite power of the Holy Spirit. When the ego is no longer in control, free, we are no longer bound by fear or insecurity, and we no longer look to the world to define us. Instead, we rest in the deep knowing that we are already whole, already connected to the divine, already empowered beyond measure. And from this place, life becomes not a struggle but a dance, a sacred unfolding of divine will through us. To be empowered by the Holy Spirit is to enter a state of divine flow, where life no longer feels like a constant struggle, but instead unfolds with grace and ease. Many people live with a deep sense of resistance, resisting circumstances, resisting change, resisting the present moment. They feel as though they must fight their way through life, forcing outcomes and controlling situations to create a sense of security. This approach, however, leads only to exhaustion and frustration, for it is rooted in the illusion of separation, the belief that we are alone. that we must rely solely on our own efforts to navigate existence. When we align with the Holy Spirit, we recognize that there is a divine intelligence operating through all things. This intelligence is not separate from us. It is within us, guiding us, speaking to us in the stillness of our hearts. To live in divine flow is to surrender to this intelligence, to allow the Spirit to work through us rather than trying to force our own will upon life. This is not a surrender of passivity, but of deep trust. Trust that there is a perfect timing, a natural unfolding to everything, and that when we stop resisting, we begin to move in harmony with it. The Holy Spirit empowers not through force, but through alignment. When we are aligned with divine flow, life seems to unfold effortlessly. This does not mean that challenges disappear, but we no longer meet them with fear or resistance. Instead, we move through them with a sense of peace, knowing that every situation is an opportunity for growth, for deepening our connection to the Spirit. What once seemed like obstacles now become doorways into greater understanding and strength. One of the most profound shifts that occur when we live in divine flow is the release of excessive effort. Many people believe that to succeed in life, they must constantly strive, push, and exhaust themselves. Yet, when we are in alignment with the Spirit, the right actions arise naturally. We are guided toward the right people, the right opportunities, the right circumstances, often in ways that we could not have predicted or planned. This is not because we are being passive, but because we are no longer acting from fear and egoic desire. Instead, our actions are inspired, arising from a deep inner knowing rather than a desperate need for control. When we resist divine flow, life feels heavy. Decisions are difficult, obstacles seem insurmountable, and no matter how much effort we put in, things never seem to go smoothly. This is a sign that we are trying to control what is meant to unfold naturally. But when we surrender to the Spirit, we enter a state of synchronicity, where life's events begin to align in ways that seem almost miraculous. Doors open at just the right time, and the answers we need appear when we least expect them. To live in divine flow is to cultivate inner stillness, for it is in stillness that we hear the guidance of the Holy Spirit most clearly. When the mind is restless, filled with thoughts of worry and doubt, we cannot perceive the subtle movements of divine wisdom. But when we quiet the mind and rest in presence, we become receptive to the Spirit's direction. This is why prayer, meditation, and moments of silence are so powerful. They create the space in which we can tune in to the deeper intelligence that is always available to us. The more we live in alignment with the Spirit, the more we see the truth. Life is not something to be conquered or controlled. It is something to be lived, to be experienced fully, to be surrendered to with trust. Divine flow does not mean that we abandon responsibility or stop taking action. It means that our actions come from a place of deep inner peace rather than anxiety and force. It means that instead of struggling against life, we move with it. In this state, we no longer worry about the future because we trust that the Spirit is guiding us. We no longer dwell on the past because we understand that every experience has served a purpose. We become fully present, fully alive, fully open to the unfolding of each moment. This is the essence of true empowerment, not the power of control, but the power of surrender, trust, and deep alignment with divine will. When we let go of the illusion of separateness and allow the Holy Spirit to guide us, we step into a life of profound peace and purpose. We realize that we are not alone, that we are supported, that everything we need is already within us. And from this place of divine flow, we move through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that all is unfolding exactly as it should. Spiritual empowerment does not come from external achievement, recognition, or material success. It is an inner transformation, a shift in consciousness that allows us to live in alignment with the Holy Spirit. The world often teaches that power comes from status, wealth, or the ability to influence others. Many people spend their lives striving to accumulate these things, believing that once they reach a certain level of success, they will finally feel whole and complete. However, no external condition can provide lasting fulfillment, because true empowerment is not something that can be gained from the outside. It is something that is awakened from within. The Holy Spirit does not empower us by giving us more possessions, titles, or worldly influence. Instead, it transforms us from the inside out, changing the way we see, think, and respond to life. This transformation is not about becoming someone different. It is about uncovering what has always been within us, but has been buried beneath layers of fear, conditioning, and false beliefs. When we allow this inner transformation to take place, we experience a profound shift in the way we live. Our sense of identity is no longer tied to what we do, what we own, or what others think of us. Instead, it is rooted in something far deeper, the unshakable presence of the Holy Spirit within us. This shift in perspective brings a deep sense of peace. No longer do we feel the need to constantly prove ourselves or seek approval from others. We realize that our worth is not determined by external validation, but by our connection to the divine. This realization frees us from the endless cycle of striving and struggling. We no longer chase after things that can never truly satisfy us. Instead, we turn inward and discover that everything we have been searching for has been within us all along. When inner transformation takes place, our priorities begin to change. What once seemed important, status, competition, the need to be right, begins to lose its grip on us. We start to value things that are eternal rather than temporary. Love, compassion, wisdom, and peace become more important than ambition, wealth, or recognition. This does not mean we abandon all pursuits in life, but rather that our motivation shifts. Instead of acting out of fear or the desire for personal gain, we act from a place of divine guidance. One of the most profound signs of spiritual empowerment is a deep sense of trust in life. Many people live in a state of anxiety, constantly worrying about the future and trying to control every aspect of their lives. But when we are truly empowered by the Holy Spirit, we no longer feel the need to manipulate or force outcomes. We trust that we are being guided, that everything is unfolding according to divine wisdom. This trust allows us to move through life with grace, even in the face of uncertainty and difficulty. Another result of inner transformation is that our relationships change. When we are no longer driven by egoic desires, we relate to others in a completely different way. We stop seeing people as obstacles to our success or as means to an end. Instead, we recognize their divine essence. We listen more deeply, speak with greater kindness, and act with more compassion. Because we no longer seek fulfillment from external sources, we become less reactive, less defensive, and more present in our interactions with others. This shift also brings a new sense of purpose. Instead of chasing after personal success, we feel called to serve in a way that aligns with the divine will. This does not mean we must abandon our careers or ambitions, but that we approach them differently. Work is no longer just a means to an end. It becomes a form of service. Every action, no matter how small, becomes an opportunity to express the love and wisdom of the Holy Spirit. The world may not always recognize this kind of empowerment. Society often equates power with dominance, control, and external success. But true power, the power of the Holy Spirit, works in a different way. It is not loud or forceful. It is quiet, steady, and unshakable. It does not seek attention, yet its presence is undeniable. Those who are truly empowered do not need to prove their strength, because their very presence radiates peace and wisdom. This is the power that transforms not only individuals, but the world itself. When enough people undergo this inner awakening, entire communities, societies, and nations can be changed. The peace and love that come from spiritual empowerment are contagious, spreading far beyond the individual and touching the lives of everyone they encounter. Ultimately, the journey of spiritual empowerment is not about acquiring anything, but about letting go of false identities, fears, and attachments that keep us disconnected from our true nature. As we surrender these illusions, the light of the Holy Spirit shines more clearly through us. We realize that we have never been separate, that we have always been held in divine love, and that true empowerment is simply the recognition of this eternal truth. True empowerment does not come from the outside world, nor is it something we must chase or struggle to attain. It is already within us, waiting to be realized through the presence of the Holy Spirit. When we awaken to this presence, we move beyond the limitations of the ego, stepping into a life of divine flow where struggle is replaced by trust, fear is replaced by peace, and control is replaced by surrender. This journey is not about becoming something new, but about uncovering what has always been within us. It is a transformation from the inside out, shifting our focus from external validation to inner wisdom, from temporary pursuits to eternal truth. When we surrender to the guidance of the Holy Spirit, our lives take on a new depth of meaning, and we begin to live with clarity, purpose, and unwavering strength. In this state of true empowerment, we no longer see ourselves as separate from God, from others, or from life itself. We become vessels of divine love, radiating peace, wisdom, and compassion in everything we do. This is the greatest gift we can offer to the world. Not words alone, but the quiet presence of a life transformed by the Spirit. May we all walk this path with open hearts, trusting in the divine presence that moves through us and empowers us beyond measure. Thank you.